Back again for the second time this week. I'm pleased to be joined by Larry Klayman. And Larry, tonight we've got a special guest joining us as well. It is Laura Loomer calling in from the field. How are you guys doing tonight?
Laura, great to see you.
I'm doing well.
Good,
yeah,
good.
Great to be on with you guys again. How are you?
I'm doing great. Laura, you're there on the ground in Minnesota, and you've just published on lauraloomer.us, which of course is your website, thankfully one place where you haven't been banned yet, an exclusive story where I can't believe only Laura Loomer has picked this up, but Ilhan Omar and Keith Ellison are caught red-handed on their own Instagram post encouraging voter fraud, telling voters to vote twice because there's no need for voter ID. What's going on over there in Minnesota, Laura?
Right, so you would think that anybody with any due diligence in the Minnesota or mainstream media would have picked this up, but apparently not. And, you know, Ilhan Omar has been facing a lot of controversy. And so I just got, bored, and, a couple friends of mine as well have been looking into this woman. And, we all started scrolling through all of her social media pages. And we were like, wow, what's this? And there's a picture of her holding a banner with Keith Ellison that said, be nice, vote twice, no voter ID. And so, in this country, in order to vote, first of all, you have to be a United States citizen. And secondly, there's one vote per person. But if you're a Democrat, right, you multiply that by 2.
It's amazing.
Or 3 or 4, however
exactly.
many times. The Democrats seem to think that that you can vote multiple times. If you're dead, you can vote. If you're here illegally, you can vote. If you're a refugee, you can vote. So there's no rules, according to the Democrats. And it's concerning because Minnesota now has Ilhan Omar as their congresswoman and Keith Ellison is their attorney general.
Right.
And when you look at the populations of people who are in this community, you have over 100,000 illegals. There are studies that show that there are at least, it was like 91 to 95,000, and this estimate was in 2005. Mind you, we're in the year 2019 now, and so those numbers have probably increased a lot. On top of that, Keith Ellison is currently pushing to challenge Trump's immigration policy so that he can import another 110,000 refugees from Somalia. And Ilhan Omar, of course, you see this woman who's advocating to abolish ICE. She wants to abolish DHS. And so all of the groups that would really help uphold election integrity by monitoring and patrolling these immigrants and refugee communities to determine who might be a terrorist, who's here illegally. She wants to get rid of those. And if we don't have those organizations, the integrity of our election system is going to be put at risk. And so I find it to be very concerning, especially going into the 2020 presidential elections. I wonder how it's going to pan out here on the ground in Minnesota, or Little Somalia, as some people refer to it as, because the politicians here don't really seem to have any respect for our laws. We know that they don't respect the Constitution. They took their oath on the Quran. They want to uphold Sharia law as opposed to the United States Constitution. And for me personally, I find that to be very alarming.
Absolutely.
Well, that's really consistent. That's consistent with Islam, which teaches that it's okay to lie if you're furthering the mission of Islam. That's the difference between Islam and Judaism and Christianity. We actually have a 10 Commandments that prevents us from lying. They actually are encouraged to lie. And that's just a simple reality, and people don't want to face it.
Right.
It's why our cultures really are not compatible. I mean, we don't want to do anything to hurt or harm Muslims in this country. They deserve to live in peace. We deserve to live in peace as long as they leave us alone and don't corrupt our electoral system. And, who knows, maybe they'll move out to California where you can vote 3 times. So that's the ultimate Mecca. I'm not joking. You'll get a ballot in the mail. You can go in and they'll ask you if you want to vote electronically or fill out another paper ballot. I had a friend that went in there that was actually asked that. You can vote 3 times, and if you're dead, you can vote 4 times. So when Trump says that he thinks he won the popular vote, I think he really did. I don't think there's any question about it. If you just add up all the fraud in California and New York, you'll have enough to take you way beyond 3 million votes that Hillary claims she won.
Exactly, and that's what I always tell people too. And And there have been some people who have tried to challenge that, right? Oh, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but well, I want to know how many illegals voted, right? You have what is it, 21 million illegal aliens living in this country, right? I mean, that's just numbers. I mean, who knows if they're illegal? How many are there really? There's really no way of knowing. But I believe it's estimated there's millions of these people here, and so if you have these people and they're potentially voting, I mean, that's enough to really disturb and influence an election.
Absolutely.
What you uncovered, Laura, is very important. As you know, last Friday, I filed on behalf of Freedom Watch a petition with the Immigration and Naturalization Service, now controlled by the Department of Homeland Security, to have Ilham Omar investigated, and if the facts bear out, deported. Not only did she marry her brother, but she committed immigration fraud in a number of other respects. And of course, she associates with terrorists and terrorist groups. That's enough to get you kicked out of the United States. And now, subverting our voting system, that should be icing on the cake. So I'm going to be submitting this as well to the Department of Homeland Security, what you've just uncovered.
It's funny that you mentioned that as well.
Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
I was just going to say, it's funny that Larry mentioned that, because you know where Ilhan Omar is currently. She's in Tampa, Florida tonight, speaking to Islamic Relief. And as you know, Larry, from lawsuits that you filed in the past, Islamic Relief is a Muslim Brotherhood tied organization. The United Arab Emirates has designated Islamic Relief as a terrorist organization. They are the largest Islamic charity in the United States. And HSBC actually closed their accounts down because of terror financing. And
Wow.
She is holding a fundraiser for these people tonight in Tampa, Florida, at the Hilton. And it's concerning because the people who she's speaking next to, one of them is a guy named Yusuf. And you go on my Instagram, you can see all this information as well. He has actually called for the killing of Jews. And so this woman who had to apologize for her vile Jew hatred this last week is clearly not sorry, because she's holding a fundraiser with a bunch of Jew haters who have called for the killing of Jews. I mean, what kind of congresswoman gets away with this? She is openly fundraising for a terrorist organization. And not only that, right, it gets worse than that. She is going to be speaking to CARE in March. And one of the guys who she's going to be speaking with is a guy named Hassan Shibli, who is the head of CARE Florida. And guess who he's currently representing? Well, he's representing the ISIS bride who's trying to come into the United States. A lot of people have seen this very salacious story in the news recently about this ISIS bride who claimed to be a United States citizen who is now trying to come back into the country. And Ilhan is going to be speaking with him, in a friendly capacity in March. And so this woman is in business and is friends with and is schmoozing with people who are providing legal representation and aid to a woman who married, I believe it's 3 ISIS soldiers and gave birth to the children, the spawn of ISIS, terrorist spawn. Wow. I mean, really, this is treasonous. This is treasonous.
It's unbelievable. And I refer them not just to your website, Laura, because you have valuable information and you're fearless, but also our website at freedomwatchusa.org. Join our coalition of the Jewish right, because I'll tell you something, what furthers this is that Jews don't stand up for themselves. The Jewish left in this country is more sympathetic to people like Ilham Omar than they are to Israel. And this is a real tragedy. It's within our own people. And we, who are the majority of the Jewish people, I'm Jewish and I'm also Messianic, we stand up for what's right. We stand up for Israel. I'm a Zionist. I'm a proud Zionist. And people need to step forward on this, because the Anti-Defamation League, the ACLU, which is largely run by Jews on the left, I mean, they run interference for these people. It's unbelievable. It's like them getting onto boxcars during the World War II thinking that they were going to summer camp with Adolf Hitler. These people are not to be messed with, and you have to be careful, and we all have to be careful, because they're also extremely dangerous. And the ISIS bride coming into this country, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, was correct in saying she'll never come into this country. But there's a lot of other people shouldn't be coming in as well. People that are here, that are citizens, that obey the law, that are peaceful, they need to be respected. But certainly not someone like Representative Ilham Omar, who is here basically to foment violence and hatred.
You know, Laura, something very strange is coming up. When you mentioned that Ilhan Omar is going to be in Tampa, I just Googled that and immediately I came to this 88.5 WMNF, which I would think is an independent radio station there in Florida, given the 88.5, frequency that it's on. And it's got Representative Ilhan Omar in Tampa raising humanitarian aid for Yemen. And then it says, join us, bring your flags, MAGA, and Trump gear. And it's showing an American flag, a MAGA hat, an Israeli flag, and it says, all are welcome, we stand with Israel. No room for anti-Semitism. So is this some sort of, it says denounce Islam and demand Ilhan Omar's resignation. So this, I guess, is a counter demonstration at the Hilton against Ilhan Omar. Laura, have we got
Well,
you?
it appears that way, yeah. And let's
Yeah, there
pray
is a
for everybody.
demonstration.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
pray
there is
for
a
everybody's
demonstration
safety.
from what I'm told.
Okay. Will you be going? You're not in Florida. You're in Minnesota. So perhaps if people are in Tampa, we don't
I'm in
want.
Minnesota.
Definitely don't want any violence, but people should come out and show their support for keeping basically ISIS supporters out of Congress. I do not think anyone in their right mind wants ISIS brides and people who are going and meeting with ISIS sympathizers and terrorists. Laura, you brought to my attention that explanatory memorandum, which people really need to download and read and understand. This is an organized plan to infiltrate Congress. We see Congress members taking an oath on the Koran rather than the Constitution. I really think there should be no religious documents involved in the oath taking in Congress. It should be the Constitution only. This is a real problem. We've got an infiltration happening.
Right.
Now, Laura, you told me.
I say it often.
Yeah, you were in a bookstore there in Little Mogadishu, Little Somalia. We should remind people that Mogadishu is the city in Somalia in the 1990s where a U.S. Black Hawk helicopter was shot down and the body of a U.S. serviceman was dragged through the street and he was tortured to death. So it's not so cute that they've got a little Mogadishu in Minnesota. Tell us about the bookstore that you went into over there, Laura.
Right. Yeah. So we were just in this mall. I guess it's called Carmel Mall. It's a Somali mall. It actually says a Somali mall, a Somalian mall here in Minnesota. And you think to yourself, like, why is there a Somalian mall? Is there a Jewish mall? No. So why is there a Somalian mall in a Midwestern town? It's very disturbing, if you ask me. And when you go in there, I mean, they're just selling a bunch of burqas, hijabs, and Qurans, and prayer rugs, and all these oils, and Muslim accessories and whatnot. And there's a literature store, and I saw they had children's books, and I found it to be very interesting. And I walked inside, and I picked up a book, and I just started flipping through the pages. And one of the first things I saw was something that said, may Allah curse the Jews. May Allah curse the Jews. And that was just within like 2 minutes of me walking into a bookstore and just randomly flipping a page. So, these people are importing their diversity, importing their culture into Minneapolis, into the United States. And when I am a Jew, I'm an American, I'm a patriot. When I flip a page in a bookstore of books, literature that's being sold to indoctrinate children into Islam, and it says, may Allah curse the Jews, I think we can all agree that this isn't the type of diversity we want in our country.
Laura, did you purchase a copy of the book? You should get a copy of that book.
Yes, I did. I purchased a copy of it, and I knew that the haters, I have so many haters, I knew that the haters would try to discredit me and say that it wasn't true. But we actually got it on camera, and the guy who filmed it is standing next to me laughing right now because, we were looking at it, and he almost didn't believe it when I showed it to him, and we started recording it. So with the book, I purchased the book, and you'll be able to see it soon. The video will be coming shortly. And it's for everyone to see because, unfortunately, this is what you have to do. You almost have to travel on the ground and take video and show people so that they can see it. Because if you say these things, right, the left accuses you of being a liar and they refuse to admit this is happening. You point this out in the Quran. There's more Jew hatred in the Quran than Hitler's Mein Kampf, according to a study conducted by Dr. Bill Warner. But even then, these people are so unwilling to admit the Jew hatred in the Quran. So very, very
well, it's not just not Jew hatred. It's hatred of Christians as
it's
well.
Christian hatred, yes.
Yeah,
But especially Jew
Judeo-Christian.
hatred. It's hatred of everybody, but yes, especially Jew hatred.
Yeah.
And that's why we're seeing a rise in anti-Semitism. I mean, every time I log on to social media, I see another crime against the Jews being committed, whether it's swastikas being printed on university and elementary school, or Orthodox men getting beaten on the streets of New York City by Muslims. It's just getting really out of control.
Laura, I have to interject here. I am very proud of my heritage. I would die for this country. I would die for Israel. Okay, but I got to tell you something, and we've talked about it before, is a lot of this pushback, a lot of this anti-Semitism is brought on by the Jewish left. The reporters that are trying to destroy Trump, the ACLU, and the others. And that's why we need to speak out. That's why we need the coalition of the Jewish right. It doesn't make it right that people are reacting to that. But I'll tell you something, when I see these people on TV, people like Adam Schiff, lying and scheming against the President of the United States and against conservatives, people of faith, against Christians, and against his own people, it creates a pushback here. And I think that's responsible for a lot of the anti-Semitism that's going on today. And the American people need to understand, as the Israelis have to understand as well, because they've got the same problem there with the left, the Jewish left, that's trying to bring down Netanyahu and the right and everything else. That a lot of the problems are not just caused by radical Muslims like Ilham Omar, but by people who are self-hating Jews in this country that would support radical Palestinians before they would even support the state of Israel. And I want to make that clear, because that gets under my skin more than anything else. And I have a lot of conservative African-American friends who feel the same way about radical blacks, about Farrakhan, about Sharpton, about others. And we got to speak out. We can't be afraid. And it's time that this be put to an end. They're an embarrassment. They're more than an embarrassment. They're a disgrace. So it's on both sides.
Larry, there's a lot of
one thing.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jason.
No, well, Laura, you go.
Oh, no, I mean, look, and I know people disagree with me on this, but one thing you said is that, you described them as radical Muslims, but there's nothing radical about Ilhan Omar. She's just a Muslim. And this is what people need to understand, is that, the reason why we're in this situation right now is because people keep making excuses for Islam and Muslims, right? There's been this distortion of reality and this movement, which, it really honestly has been perpetuated by many in the left-wing Jewish community to convince people that there's this distinction between moderate Islam and radical Islam. But, Islam is somebody who's Muslim, is somebody who, follows the ways and the life and the teachings of Muhammad as outlined in the Quran. And if you read the Quran, it calls for the killing of Jews and Christians, right? And that's just the Quran. It's not like there's a Quran, extreme, a Quran extreme times 2. No, this is just Islam in its purest form.
No
and
diet
so I would really
Quran.
Encourage people to stop. I would really
actually, there's a fallback position. If we don't get killed, we can be enslaved and just have to pay high taxes. So, I don't agree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying.
Let me ask you guys this. Because
let me finish, Jason.
Sure.
I want to make it clear. Okay, I have Muslim friends. They're no longer Muslim. They've renounced the faith. They're good people. Believe me.
Exactly.
They're not inherently
bad
people. But you're right. The Islamic religion isn't a religion. It's not a religion at all. Okay, it's a cult of hatred, and you're right about that.
Right. So let me ask you guys this. Larry, when you mention Zionism, immediately the comments go crazy. I don't know that much about the technical definition of Zionism. I think a lot of people view it in a lot of different ways. There has definitely been a focused effort by truly dishonest people such as Robert David Steele and Cynthia McKinney to smear Zionism and make it an evil word. Obviously,
Zionism is simply the fact that the land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people. I'm sorry, I won't back down on that. And by extension, to Christians. Okay, that's the home of Jesus. That's the home of the disciples of Peter and Paul. This land belongs to us. This is our land. And we're happy to have the Arabs live there as long as we live in peace. But the fact is that land is our land. If people don't like it, they can take it where the sun don't shine.
There you go. I appreciate you standing up for that. Laura, any comments?
No, I agree. And, it's been a pleasure as always being on with you guys tonight. And, I love when we all come together. It's like, the three right-wing Jews. I love it, and I just hope that more Jews wake up and they start to join us in our fight, because there's only 15 million of us left. And, half of them have been diseased by this mental, I call it a mental illness, really, this mental illness in which they feel like they have to pander to Islamofascists, right? And I hope that we can save our fellow Jewish brothers and sisters on the left as well, and awaken them so that they realize that, that they are leading themselves down a path of destruction by pandering to these people and by standing with those who follow an ideology that calls for the killing and the eradication of our existence. And I really do hope that something changes, because I'm fearful for the future of the Jewish people when there are only 15 million Jews worldwide, and then there's 2 billion Muslims, right? I mean, how do 15 million Jews compete with 2 billion Muslims, especially when half of us are, have that suicide gene that I'm constantly referring to, that sense of, I must defend the Muslims, I must defend the Islamofascists who are calling for Jews and Christians to be killed. It's just really, really disturbing to me.
Now, Laura, I know you're on the road. I know you're on the road and you've got to run, but real quickly before you go, can you give us an update on what's gone on with the situation with Chase Bank? They had locked you out when we last spoke.
Right. So Chase Bank they suspended my online access, and then they also suspended the accounts of 2 of my friends, Enrique Tarrio and Joe Biggs. And, they fully banned them, right? I wasn't fully banned. I had my online access suspended. And when One America News did a report about this, I ended up getting a call right afterwards from Chase Bank, and they also called Joe. And they were, they wouldn't tell me the reason why they suspended my online access, but they were saying that they would be willing to reinstate my account. And, I said, well, that's great and all, but, I really want to know why you banned me from using my online access. And I would love to know, why you're biased against conservatives and why conservatives should bank with you if you're giving money to the SPLC. As you know, Jamie Dimon is very anti-Trump. He's the CEO of Chase, JP Morgan. And they donated over $1 million to SPLC to fight hate groups after Charlottesville. And the SPLC is targeting conservative individuals like myself. So I told Chase, even if you do reinstate my online access, I'm going to be switching banks. And, they said the same thing to Joe Biggs, who also told them he'd be switching. So, if you're a conservative, I just don't recommend that you bank with Chase Bank anymore. And, I didn't ever notice this, but I noticed that the Chase logo is a swastika. So as a Jew, I definitely don't want to be banking with Chase Bank, because I never noticed that before, but apparently their logo really is Nazi imagery.
Wow, I hadn't noticed that either. Chase
Did you realize? Did you see it?
I
It's a swastika.
see it. I'm
Take a
looking
look at
it. Yeah, it's kind of embedded in there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a swastika embedded in a banking logo.
Oh,
so
wow.
I find that to be very offensive, and so I also will no longer be using Chase. And look, I've always been telling you guys, these people are the Nazis, right? These leftists that want to police our speech and our voices, they are the Nazis. And it's just becoming more and more apparent every day. And these things are subliminal. I mean, you mean to tell me that a multi-billion-dollar company that has some of the best PR teams in the world can't figure out that they have a swastika in their logo? I mean, very, very concerning things.
Jason, can you show the logo? I haven't seen
America.
it.
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now, Larry.
We've
got the Chase logo right here. And that's crazy, Laura. There is a lot of subtle imagery in logos there. I want to bring up the Chase logo and a swastika for people to be able to look at it at the same time. I mean, I think it's subtly embedded in there, but you can sort of see how it's certainly suggestive of it at very least. Sorry, here, let me put that up so everybody can see it. Can you see it there, Larry?
Yeah, I see it.
Well, Laura, it's really stunning, the information that you're bringing forward, and sorry to hear about that situation with Chase Bank. Larry, what about the legality of this? Can Chase Bank just suspend people's accounts willy-nilly?
No, they can't, and Laura needs to look into that and to find out, what the excuse is for having done that. But that's outrageous. I mean, that's beyond outrageous. But we need to get the facts to see what happened there. It could be that there was a lone wolf inside of Chase who took it upon himself, like happens at the NSA when
Right.
people go into the system. So
Right.
we don't know what the reason was, but clearly it's illegal. They can't do that.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. So people should
Well-
definitely go to lauraloomer.us and support Laura's work. We've got people coming at her from all sides, Chase Bank and the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE.
Yeah.
You can go there.
I'm texting you, by the way, right now. I'm
Okay.
texting you a picture so that you can pull it up, but I just sent you a picture that shows the Chase logo from multiple angles.
Okay, great.
You
Yeah,
can
I've
see
got
it for yourself.
Do you have the book with you, Laura? Why don't you text us that?
Well, that's going to be a little bit harder to do, but I'll get this.
Yeah.
I'll get this image up on screen for everybody to take a look at. Laura, was there anything else you wanted to share with us before you go?
I'll send a picture to you. But yeah, if you could just subscribe to my website, lauraloomer.us. I'm on the road now, traveling, and I'm going to continue my investigation. But just keep an eye out. I mean, just so you know, Ilhan, like I said, is campaigning and fundraising with a terrorist organization tonight, and she'll be doing it again in March as well. And we really do have these infiltrators in our government. It's no longer creeping Sharia, right? We have Sharia in the halls of Congress manifesting
Well,
itself.
maybe we'll also see her at the Academy Awards tomorrow. She'll probably fit in quite well there. So let's see what
Yeah, well,
Wow.
who knows? But
They can
it's
toast
getting
her.
pretty scary.
Absolutely. Laura, thanks for
all
all the
right.
work that you're doing there. Great to speak with you, and
Of
we'll have you
course.
back on soon, okay?
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Wow, Larry, that's pretty surprising. Some of the stuff that Laura's uncovering, I think, would shock people.
She's a brave woman, and we need more of that, Jason. You're a brave person. You put her on, you put me on, you put other people on. She's right. You could never say this on Fox News. You couldn't even say that Obama was half Muslim and that was influencing his policies towards Israel. You'd be thrown off of Fox for that. You've never heard that.
No.
Just the other day, we may have discussed this yesterday, you had Elliot Abrams on there that was being attacked by Ilham Omar during a congressional hearing. She was calling him a liar. She was humiliating him, attempting to humiliate him. None of the commentators on Fox, and I was watching a show that occurred right after that, would even relate to the fact that the attack was probably because Elliot Abrams is Jewish. They don't even mention that possibility.
Was that
And-
the
and
one
that's
where
why-
she asked the guy a question and he said no, and she said, I'll take that as a yes?
Well, yes, and then she said, you're a certified liar. No one can believe anything that you say. And it was clearly, she was going after him because of his Jewish background. It was clearly doing that.
Wow.
But no one in Fox would discuss it. And that's why, I don't watch Fox anymore. I really don't. I basically, it feels like, I feel like throwing up most of the time when I watch the evening edition. I'll watch Shannon Bream. I think she's okay. She's a nice person. I watch Bill Hemmer in the morning. There's news. But the commentators on Fox, from Hannity to Tucker Carlson to Laura Ingraham, I don't want to watch it anymore. It's kind of over and over and over again. It's propaganda to boost their ratings, and they won't tell the truth.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got this image that Laura sent us from Chase Bank here. Let me put this up on screen so everybody can see it. And yeah, it's definitely suggestive of what Laura had described. Certainly, subliminally, it's certainly similar. We're really wild. So we'll keep on the lookout for what's going on with Chase Bank. Larry, let's switch our conversation here to Robert Mueller's report that The Hill has told us will actually not come out this coming week. What do you think the implications of the report not coming out would be?
I got to tell you what I think it is. It's strategic. They probably intended to have it come out at one point, probably several weeks ago. I think that with the raid on Roger Stone's house down there in Fort Lauderdale, he was indicted for alleged obstruction of justice, of witness tampering, which is part of that, and of lying under oath. Those are the allegations. But I believe that what they were really looking for was what he had in the house in terms of communications with Donald Trump, with the president, before and after he was elected. So I think that's why they're delaying it, is that they're going through all of that information that they have with their forensic so-called experts to see if they have communications between Roger Stone and the president. And, frankly, I don't think any crime was committed here either. In terms of Russian collusion or in terms of manipulating elections with the Russians, but they're looking to see if Stone and the president talked about testimony that he was going to have to provide if he ever went under oath before anything else other than the House Intel Committee, and they're looking for other things as well. So they're delaying this to complete that forensic analysis. That's my guess.
Right. And I know you don't want to speak too much about what's going on with Roger Stone, as your client, Dr. Corsi, is potentially a material witness in that case. But I mean, is it legitimate the way? I mean, they raided Roger Stone's house to just come and go through everything. I mean, it seems to really violate the Fourth Amendment. Have I got the right amendment, the right to be free of undue search and seizure?
Look, Jason, I'm no fan of Robert Mueller, and as I pointed out, is that Jerry Corsi is the only one who fought back against Robert Mueller. He filed a $350 million lawsuit. He filed criminal complaints with the Justice Department. But the fact that they went in and raided the house, if in fact they had probable cause that something was going on there that was not legal, I don't see that that would be an abuse, even though, you know, like I told you these days, I feel more like special defense counsel than special prosecutor. You know, I'm representing clients who've been wronged greatly, whether it's the Bundys or Schaefer Cox or whatever. But I don't believe that that was an egregious violation. I'm sorry, I just simply don't.
Wow, but all those guys, I mean, the guns and everything, I mean.
Well, look, I've commented on this before. I'm not going to comment on it now because of the order that Judge Amy Berman Jackson put on this.
Right.
But I've been on the record before as to how Roger Stone is perceived by law enforcement, statements that he's made, braggadocio that he's engaged in about his associations with other people. So, I'll tell you, I'll go out on the limb on anything here, but in terms of defending Roger Stone, no, I won't do that.
So people were commenting earlier while Laura was on about Cassandra Fairbanks. She joined a debate with you on Newsmax where she openly proclaimed that she had been in communication with Julian Assange. Cassandra Fairbanks at one point was employed by Sputnik News, which we've heard is owned by the Russians. Why is Robert Mueller not questioning Cassandra Fairbanks or kicking in her door and pointing guns in her face?
Well, perhaps he is. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing, but you would think someone who said that they were with Julian Assange twice in the last several months and who made certain statements about, how close she is, to put it diplomatically, with Julian Assange, you think that she would be questioned. So you don't know whether that's happened or not at this point.
Yeah, I find it strange. I don't know. Does Julian Assange just go and associate with any old person? I would imagine he's quite sensitive about his security. And, do we have any verifiable facts that Cassandra Fairbanks
I don't want to speculate on that. Again, I'm on record on that one, too.
Right.
Okay? So, see, I'm in a different position right now. I'm defending Jerry Corsi. He's told the truth to the special counsel. He's promised to tell the truth in the future if he's called as person number one in the trial of Roger Stone. And thank God that Jerry Corsi has not been indicted. It was the right thing to do because he's been honest every step of the way. And I don't want to get into that mix right now because I have a client here, okay?
Yes, absolutely. But I didn't mean to.
I've been on the record before in terms of what happened with that interview and what happened otherwise with Roger Stone, and people know where I stand on that.
Gotcha. And I didn't mean to push, Larry. I just sometimes when people ask questions and we don't address them at all, I get accused of other things.
My first obligation is to my client. And I also feel a similar obligation to the people of the United States, and they know what I do. You can go to freedomwatchusa.org. Everybody's going to be held accountable. We're going to be starting our citizens' grand juries in March. I hope that you'll live stream them and be there. You can even be a witness, Jason, because you have so much information here as to what's going on. We're not going to pull any punches here. But because I have to respect Judge Jackson's order, which applies to witnesses as well, I have to be circumspect in what I say.
Of course, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's always good to get your legal insights, Larry. I think a lot of people watch the news and they think they know everything that's going on, but of course, there's so many thorns in that legal briar patch. There's lots of ways that people can get caught up and get themselves into trouble just by saying this and that. So, you know, again, people are...
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, this is a particular instance where I have a client who's in front of potentially in front of the court in the Stone prosecution. But my opinions everywhere else about Robert Mueller and what's going on and the attempts to take down the President of the United States, I'm on record on that. And I'm the only one who's brought lawsuits against Robert Mueller, the only one as a lawyer who's done it. The President's lawyer should have done it, but they'd rather go on Fox News and pontificate and be big shots than actually defend the President of the United States.
Right, and it's important that we remind people about that. You've brought the lawsuit of Dr. Corsi versus Mueller, and you know these lawsuits are expensive to do. I share your surprise that President Trump hasn't done it. I do want to encourage people to go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate generously, because nobody else is hiring lawyers to challenge Robert Mueller, and without that, we basically have unfettered tyranny where Mueller can do whatever it is that he wants.
And let's talk more broadly right now, because I think it's important for people to understand, is that when that Mueller report comes out, all heck's going to break loose. And it doesn't matter whether there are findings that the president committed a crime or not. It'll be distorted, it will be misused, it'll be perverted in terms of its application. And the president is in dire trouble right now, because you've got a Democrat House of Representatives, you've got Adam Schiff, head of the House Intel Committee. You know, when I put stuff up about Schiff, the radio show I did the other day, or the interview I did on Newsmax, or your show, Crowdsource the Truth, it goes through the roof, because people know how dishonest and how corrupt and how frankly despicable this individual is, Adam Schiff. And he right now is a lightning rod, and he will take whatever Mueller gives him and he'll use it. And so will Gerald Nadler, head of the House Judiciary Committee. So will Maxine Waters, head of the Banking Committee. Representative Ilhan Omar, Cortez, Bernie Sanders, the rest of them. They'll take it and they will use it. And we will wind up with not just impeachment, but a trial in front of the U.S. Senate. That'll grind the president to a halt. And look what's happening this week. They're bringing Michael Cohen in front of Congress to testify, the House of Representatives, at the same time the president's trying to negotiate denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula with Kim Jong-un, okay? That is an act of traitorism, to be undercutting the president when he's trying to represent the entire American people in the world to try to get nuclear weapons away from the North Koreans. What could be more despicable than that? And who's heading that? Adam Schiff, Gerald Nadler, and the rest of them up there, on the, including Nancy Pelosi. These people are criminals. Let me say it again. They're criminals. I will deal with them in the citizens' grand juries, and I need your support to do it. And frankly, you know, it just makes my blood boil to think of what's going on in this country today. And thank God there hasn't been violence yet. And I'm trying to prevent that. I said that a million times. I'm trying to use the legal system. But if this continues on, people other than me and other than you, Jason, are going to take matters into their own hands, and there's going to be a bloodbath in this country eventually.
We don't want to encourage anyone to do that. We're just fearful that the events happening right now might cause that to happen. We got a lot of...
That's right. We're trying to head it off, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. But you got to see the risk here, because unless people stand up and use the legal system peacefully and legally, that could be where this country's headed. It headed that way in 1776. It headed that way in the Civil War. It headed that way in other areas of our other times of our nation. And that's the risk. And if you don't see it and you don't make the clarion call right now to prevent it, then God forbid we'll be in it, and it'll exponentially unfold in a manner that this country has never seen before. And that's the risk.
Yeah, I definitely hope that that does not happened. So Vox was reporting, Larry, that Michael Cohen, this is just from 6 hours ago, Michael Cohen is apparently releasing new information. I feel like every time we hear something about Michael Cohen, it's just nonsense and BS, basically. They just pull him out every time something happens, right? What is Michael Cohen releasing that's new here? New York Times and NBC.
Well, it doesn't matter because nothing he says is credible, but he'll say whatever he has to say to save his own skin. And, the president, if he's looking back, he's got to say to himself, I made a mistake. I associated with people I should not have associated with. I won't use any names. But, there's an old expression, when you associate with people who aren't good people, you start to smell like them. And I hope the president learns that lesson going forward, because I think this is a great president. I think he's learned a lot of things over time. And today he stands for the right principles. He's taking actions on behalf of the American people. By and large, he's fearless. He's made mistakes. We all make mistakes. But this president needs our support. And we at Freedom Watch have, in effect, become his legal defense counsel, because he really has no defense counsel that actually do anything for him other than go on Fox News or other cable networks. And right. Fox News is starting to turn left. I mean, listen to Chris Wallace. Listen to Judge Napolitano trash the president recently over the border wall and things like that, or, other issues. Is that he needs to stand up for himself. He needs to know who his friends are. I'm afraid that the president doesn't know who his friends are. But he better wake up fast, because, Larry, frankly, it's closing in on him.
We've got Politico, CNN, and others just within the past couple of hours here reporting that Democrats are demanding that Barr release the Mueller report. They're trying to position William Barr as some kind of Trump crony who is blocking the Mueller investigation. You and I have both doubted that from the moment it was announced that Barr was being selected as Attorney General. What is the strategy here? Why do Democrats think that this guy is anything other than an H.W. Bush in the tank, swamp creature?
Great question. They don't really think that, Jason, but they know the way it works in Washington, D.C. So they're emasculating, they're castrating the Attorney General right now, Barr, just like they did with Matthew Whitaker, who was acting Attorney General, and like they did with Jeff Sessions, former Attorney General as well. They're basically just neutering him. The great elephant is neutered. So they're basting him as a turkey, frankly, and they're going to roast him later. And they know this report's coming out. The Republicans know it's coming out. There's no way you can keep it confidential. No, not in this country today. So that's what I'm saying, is that on the horizon are some very dark times. Whether or not Robert Mueller finds that the president committed crimes or not, it will be used in a way to try to destroy him, and it will take the president to his political and legal knees, and it will mobilize the country, and it will do significant damage. What happened during the Clinton years with impeachment is a warm-up act compared to what's going to happen now. And that is the risk that we all face, and that's why, I'm fighting as hard as I can at Freedom Watch on the president's behalf. That's why we have our citizens' grand juries. That's why we have our hard-hitting lawsuits. That's why I'm defending Jerry Corsi, who did nothing wrong. He told the truth. And that's why I stand for people like Klayman Bundy and Schaefer Cox and my other clients, because we stand up to this tyranny. The Democrats know they've already got this Attorney General in their hip pocket. He's a Republican establishment rhino. He got down on his knees at his confirmation hearing. He professed his allegiance to Robert Mueller.
Yeah.
Says he was his good friend. His wife goes to Bible study with Mueller's wife. How do you think he got confirmed? So he's compromised already. This guy is, he's a Democrat in Republican clothing. That's what he is. He couldn't have been confirmed otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I never think this whole Democrat-Republican thing is remotely legitimate. I think we're talking about swamp creatures versus non-swamp creatures. So the other thing you and I were talking about was this investigation of Adam Schiff, and you've got so many cases going, Larry, and so many things that you're doing. It's almost difficult for a person to comprehend. I don't know when you ever sleep. What's going on with Adam Schiff lately?
Well, I don't sleep that much, Jason, to be honest. I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. Okay, it's quiet time where I figure out what I'm going to do for that day, that week, that month. And you have to be strategic here because you can't do everything. We are small. We do need the contributions, the tax-deductible contributions to get bigger. We're stretched thin. But I've always said start at the top. People used to ask me, Larry, why have you sued the president? I said, you know what, because it cost as much to bring a banana peel case as to sue the president of the United States. You might as well start on the top and work your way down. Now, this guy is the absolute worst in so-called government. He's the worst of the worst of the worst.
We should also mention that he's Jewish, so it's not like you're just fighting out against, certain groups that you don't like.
No, and I said this, and you know how proud I am to be Jewish, and you know how much I feel about it, and I said that earlier in the show. But I'll tell you something, I don't pull any punches. We're not circling the wagons because somebody's Jewish. Everybody needs to be held accountable.
Yeah.
And read my column this week at WND.com. It's up at freedomwatchusa.org. I point that out. Look at Rod Rosenstein. He's Jewish. He should be prosecuted. Look at Lois Lerner at the IRS when she discriminated against conservative groups, and interestingly enough, conservative groups that were supportive of Israel. She's Jewish. The Jewish left is the biggest threat to the Jewish people and to Christians, frankly, in this country. They're more of a threat than the Muslims are in many ways. And it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed peacefully and legally. And that's one of the nice things about the Jewish people is that, we don't circle the wagons when one of us does the wrong thing, okay? Figuratively, we'll hold them accountable. And, that's not the way we are. There are other groups in this country that circle the wagons, right or wrong. No, I won't do that. But yes, Adam Schiff is Jewish, and I'm not going to pull any punches because he's Jewish. And frankly, he's a disgrace to the Jewish people.
He's a disgrace to humankind, in my opinion, but he claims to be assembling his own separate investigation, so irrespective of what happens with Robert Mueller's investigation, we'll see something from Adam Schiff, no doubt. Now, you also, I don't know if we got a chance to speak about this, but you've just filed a petition to actually deport Ilhan Omar. Talk to us about that a little bit, Larry. What grounds do you think she should be deported on?
Yeah, my colleagues and I wrote a very detailed petition to the Immigration Service, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security. In essence, she has made false statements to immigration authorities. She married her brother so he could get citizenship status in the United States. That's been widely reported. We want that investigated. If it bears out, she should lose her naturalized citizenship. She's also cavorting with terrorists and terrorist interests, and that's a reason also to be held accountable as well. And we go through a litany of different things, and Laura just pointed out she's now advocating voting twice. That's advocating committing a crime, okay? And for that reason alone, she should be deported and fined, or whatever happens to her. She should be removed from Congress. Her colleagues should remove her from Congress.
Yeah.
She's an embarrassment to the Democratic Party. I mean, and Keith Ellison, he's the same thing. This is a Farrakhan supporter. Yeah. Keith Ellison, Attorney General of Minnesota. It's really sad because Scandinavian people are very open people, and they're very humanitarian people, generally. If you look at the rankings of the most honest countries in the world, it's the Scandinavian countries that rank the highest, higher than we do in terms of their justice system. So they're very tolerant. But they let these evil people into their midst. Minnesota is highly Scandinavian, Norwegian, right, Swedish, etc. Same thing's happening in Sweden. They let in all of these radical Muslims that's destroying their country. And that's what Trump was trying to do. He wasn't trying to discriminate against Muslims. I don't want to discriminate against Muslims. They deserve to have rights. When Bush wouldn't let them have lawyers, Muslim citizens at Guantanamo, I think the Supreme Court made the right decision when said, no, that's unconstitutional. They're citizens. They deserve to have rights of counsel. But you know what? There are Muslims in this country that wish us no goodwill. And they should not be held on a pedestal because it's politically incorrect or because they play the race card. No more than Adam Schiff should be exempt because he's a minority. No more than radical African Americans should be exempt, like Farrakhan, who's black and Muslim. No more than Al Sharpton should be exempt, or anybody else that seeks to harm other people and to take this country down. And all of these radical groups have now banded together. It's a coalition to destroy this country and to bring it back in their image, which is a socialist, communist, atheist, radical image. There's no doubt about it. And, you know, the American people need to wake up because this country's going down. You know, I'm 67, okay? I'll be dead before it goes under for the final count. You know, my kids won't be dead, and my grandkids, if I ever have any, won't be dead. But I don't want to see this country go under, and that's where we're headed right now. We're hanging by a thread. So,
I
agree,
Larry.
Please support what I'm doing because, you know, and I'll be honest, and let me, you know, sound a little conceited here. I'm the only lawyer in this country that'll stick his neck out this way. Nobody else will. Most of them want money. You know, they're afraid of bar associations. They're afraid of this. They're afraid of everything. I have to do what I believe is right. It's not just the law of our land, the Constitution, and the laws that we have, but it's also the law of God. That's more important than all of the laws. The law of Yahweh, the Judeo-Christian God, which gave us the Ten Commandments, which gave us the civil legal system in Napoleonic civil code, which gave us the common law. There's no doubt that has shaped our society. And there are people in our country today who, frankly, if they want to live in peace, fine, okay, but they're not compatible with our culture. They're simply not. And there are a lot of people out there that simply want to destroy us from within, and Ilhan Omar is one of them.
Now, let me ask you this, Larry. Is this petition that you've entered, is it public information? May I show it?
Yes. Yes,
okay,
please
there we
do.
go. So we've got the petition here. You've sent it to the Department of Homeland Security. It's a petition to commence deportation proceedings for the removal from the United States and or prosecution of Ilhan Omar. In it, Larry presents his allegations that Ilhan Omar has committed immigration fraud on behalf of her brother. And people can go to Freedom Watch and see that. Is it up on Freedom Watch yet? I just got this from you.
It is. It's up with the article that I wrote at WorldNet Daily. It's embedded in that, but I'm going to make it more obvious. One thing I want to say, Jason, we were talking about the Jewish left, okay? Mm-hmm. You know how Ilhan Omar got elected in Minnesota? With a lot of Jewish leftist money. They threw their lot with her.
Wow.
Up there. I mean, it shows you just how stupid these people are.
Yeah.
That's why I say, if we were back in World War II, they'd be getting on boxcars in Nazi Germany thinking they were going to summer camp. Yeah. It's just unreal.
Now, Larry, we're almost out of time here, but we've got a lot of people commenting about this comic, Brody Stevens, who I'm not aware of. He's just died of an apparent suicide after apparently criticizing Adam Schiff for being linked to these deaths. There was a helicopter crash, which, if I recall, the people in the helicopter crash were linked to that Standard Hotel. Do I have that right? Have you heard anything about this? It's just breaking now.
No, I haven't. That's tragic. I'm very sorry to hear that.
It's amazing how many people seem to commit suicide. I mean, obviously, we don't have any information about this as far as...
yeah, I know where you're going on that. I don't want to say anything yet, but it should be investigated for sure. Yeah. I mean, it certainly is a coincidence, isn't it? So I'm not making any accusations, but it needs to be investigated. Look, 80 people died in and around the Clinton administration. Do you think all of that was law of average? No.
Yeah, no, there were a lot of bizarre suicides.
I'll say it straight up. I think that the Clintons actually ordered hits on people. I'll say it straight up. And I'm not going to pull any punches on that either. 80 people don't die, and you don't leave lists of dead people on Linda Tripp's chair and some of the clients that I represented. You know, if you didn't kill anybody, but you certainly want somebody to think that, so they keep their mouths shut. I do believe the Clintons had hits ordered on people.
Yeah, and I want to look more into the death of this comedian because, as I recall, there were people who were, I think, executives of the Standard Hotel, who died in that helicopter crash. And we had done a story a while ago about Ed Buck, the mega donor, and his involvement with some kind of party at the Standard Hotel or something like that. And Ed Buck has now become somewhat infamous for having young black male prostitutes take crystal meth overdoses and die at his house. I find it strange that someone could have two people die at their house under the same exact circumstances and not have the FBI or the LAPD kick in their door and begin an immediate investigation of them, gay, straight, white, black, or otherwise. This is a very troubling situation.
This is what we're talking about in this country, Jason, okay? We're both minorities, okay? But we shouldn't be treated any better than anybody else. We should all be equal. And my African American friends know that. My truly Jewish Christian friends know that. That's a fact. But in today's world, if you're a minority in this country, by and large, you're above the law. You can almost get away with anything today. And you just play the race card, you play the religion card, you play the feminist card, you play this card, you play that card, and all of a sudden you can walk away scot-free. But people in this country who the majority, they get nailed. Okay, and you know, and I think there's a lot of injustice, and I think there's a lot of racism that's still out there in society, and I think that blacks and others are treated unfairly from time to time. I have been treated unfairly in that manner. We can go into that some other time. But I'll tell you something, is that they'll play the race card. This guy, Smollett, he won't do any time. Forget it. Not going to happen.
They got kicked off of Empire, I think. They cut him out of the last episodes.
Well, that'll probably be the worst that happens to him, okay? Because he'll just walk away from this. Al Sharpton walked away from it. Louis Farrakhan killed Malcolm X. He just walked away from it.
But Larry, is it racially motivated, or is it that these guys are politically connected? Because I do think it's got more to do with your socio-economic political connections than being a minority or being a majority. I think most people would consider you and I old white guys. R. Kelly, of course, has been indicted on 10 counts of, I mean, this is one of the craziest cases because it's basically been known forever. Dave Chappelle made a whole video joking about R. Kelly urinating on a 14-year-old girl. It's taken forever to bring this guy to justice.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm saying, Jason, is that there's injustice. All groups, you know, and minorities have rights to bring forward too, and they have been persecuted in the past, and slavery was wrong, it was terrible, and this and that. Now we have a whole movement for reparations now, you know, hundreds of years later. I mean, it's become theater of the absurd, but it is a reality, and I think that people need to say this straight up. You can't say it on Fox News again, you can't say it in certain areas, but if you're a minority and you play the race card, I've seen it over and over again in my career, you have a very good chance of walking away with no penalty after you've committed felonies. See, so when these minorities come out and they say, okay, we're persecuted, right, you know what? You are persecuted, okay? And if white people do that and other people, throw the book at them, throw the key away.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you've done something wrong and you're responsible, then you do the time. And don't play the race card to try to skate out from under your responsibilities, both as a human being and as someone who lives in this country.
I think R. Kelly is going to have a tough time shaking these charges. Basically, everybody knows he's done it. He's got it on video. The girl says she's 14. He says she's 14. Michael Avenatti is involved in this. What's up with that guy?
Well, the creepy porn lawyer is everywhere. I don't know. Maybe he'll turn up and defend the owner of the Boston, of the New England Patriots. Who knows?
Oh, right. That's another prostitution
I call
situation.
that, by the way, Jason, I call that Inflategate, okay?
Oh, boy. Yeah, this guy, Michael Avenatti, he is a porn lawyer. I mean, from a legal standpoint, this guy is pornographic.
Yeah, no, he's low class. I mean, he's an embarrassment to the legal profession. Not that there aren't many others, believe me.
He seems to be on the right side of this one. He's defending or I should say he's representing the plaintiff, the 14-year-old girl, I believe, who was raped by R. Kelly. Well,
maybe he came to Jesus. Who knows?
I think he's just a sensationalist, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. Regrettable. I don't think Jesus would have anything to do with him.
Definitely not. Well, listen, Larry.
Or King David.
We've covered quite a lot of stuff today. It is very important for people to go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate. Those people who want to see justice in the United States of America have got to turn to Larry and his colleagues at Freedom Watch. It's one thing to watch these videos and share them. That's very important, and we appreciate that. But really get the word out to friends. Even if people donate just $5, $10, the donations to freedomwatchusa.org are tax deductible. And of course, if you send Larry, what's the number, Larry, where they're going to get the free books? Is it $250?
Well, yes. If you donate over $250, you'll get a 4-volume work, 700 pages of everything I've written in all of my public interest advocacy, which really tracks what went on during the Clinton administration, what went on during George W. Bush, Obama, and now Trump. And if I ever have time, Jason, I'm going to write another book. My first one was called Whores, Why and How I Came to Fight the Establishment. The next one will be Whores 2, They're Back.
It sounds like a Mel Brooks movie, Larry, but I think people will enjoy reading that, and it's a great way to get the books and help Freedom Watch at the same time. Of course, if people just want to read the book, they can get it on Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. I always like to encourage people to use bookstores that are not controlled by the CIA. And I do want to remind everyone that Crowdsource the Truth is viewer supported. So please go over to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Become a sponsor. I can't keep doing these shows every day without the generous support of our sponsors. We got trolls in the comments. They can do whatever they want. I think it's the same 3 guys using a bunch of different sock puppet accounts. It's become amusing. But Larry, I want to thank you for joining me on this Saturday night. Have a great evening. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll be back tomorrow for Sunday with Charles. We got a very special episode. Charles will be awarding the Ortels to the top idiotic donors to the Clinton Foundation. It should be great for everybody to see. I'll see everybody tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Take care, Jason. God bless.
Thank you, Larry. You too.
Great job. You're the best, Jason. You are.